The median, a statistical stalwart that has stood the test of time. Now, the median isn't your average, it's a distinctive value that serves as the dividing line between the upper and lower halves of a data set. Sort of the line that separates the haves from the have-nots. What makes the median special? The median remains unswayed by outliers or extreme values. It's the sage of statistics, absorbing the full range of data, but advising, let's not be dazzled by these extreme figures. If we're going to have a measure of central tendency, let's keep our gaze where it belongs, right at the middle. Hello, welcome back to the Data Science Rabbit Hole. Everyone's always calculating averages using the arithmetic mean. What, is the median not good enough for you? Today, we're going to look into the history of the median. When it comes to the history of the median, we find ourselves in murky waters. While there are some ancient texts that sound like they may be referring to the median, it's hard to be sure. Maybe they were talking about the median, or maybe they were just discussing their favorite type of sandwich filling. We can't really say for certain. But what we do know is that clear references to the median don't seem to exist very far back in history. It's like the median was a late bloomer, waiting for the Enlightenment to fully emerge into the world of statistics. In the 17th century, the brothers Christian and Ludwig were exchanging letters about their father's life expectancy, because that's just how you bond with your siblings. They discovered that the expected value of a remaining life and the 50th percentile were not the same value. It's always good to have these discussions before they become relevant. In the mid-18th century, mathematician Roger Boscovich investigated minimizing a sum of absolute errors. He looked to find the value that, when compared to all the existing data points, would give the smallest possible total difference. Well, he found it, and surprise, surprise, he didn't call it as such explicitly, but it turned out to be the median. In the early 19th century, some big names in math and stats, like Legendre and Laplace, all the big L's, were delving into probability and started referring to the middle of the distribution. Cournot later called it valeur médiane, which sounds fancy and all, but it's French, and we all struggle with French pronunciations, right? In the 1860s, Gustav Fechner promoted the use of the median, again not in English. This dude was German, and he had a serious case of median fever, especially when it came to psychophysics. His method of limits was a way of finding the 50th percentile, aka the median, for perception of a stimulus, and is still in use today. But in all honesty, situations like this were very specific cases for the median. It's not like scientists were throwing median parties and inviting all their friends over to chant median, median, median. It wasn't until 1882 that Francis Galton coined the term median. While the median never quite had the popularity of the arithmetic mean, Galton was the most luminous of a not insignificant sample of statisticians who preferred the median to the mean. They loved it for its robustness against outliers, especially in cases where the data was all wonky and skewed. Plus, given the state of computers back in the 1800s, calculating the median was way easier than calculating the mean. Let's mosey on over to Galton's famous cow guessing contest, held at the West of England Fat Stock and Poultry Exhibition. And no, this wasn't just a bunch of amateurs guessing the weight of a cow. These were professional cow traders and buyers. They each coughed up 6 pence for a stamped and numbered card to write down their best estimate of what the cow would weigh after it had been dressed, aka slaughtered. The winner would take home a prize for their best guess. The paper, published in Nature, is short, more like a letter to the editor. But Galton describes his methodology and reviews the data, even name-dropping Fechner at one point. When Galton published his results, he didn't use the mean to calculate the average of the guesses like a typical Joe Schmo statistician. Instead, he opted for the median. Why the median? Well, Galton makes no secret of his thinking. He titled his article Vox Populi, Latin for voice of the people. Let me read you a few quotes. In these democratic days, any investigation into the trustworthiness and peculiarities of popular judgments is of interest. The material about to be discussed refers to a small matter, but it is much to the point. The average competitor was probably as well fitted for making a just estimate of the dressed weight of the ox as an average voter is of judging the merits of most political issues on which he votes. And this next one is particularly important. According to the democratic principle of one vote, one value, the middlemost value expresses the Vox Populi, every other estimate being condemned as too low or too high by a majority of the voters. Here he references an article from a few weeks earlier in which he pointed out that a jury or council deciding upon a figure, such as an amount of payment, if using the mean, would allow, quote, voting power to cranks in proportion to their crankiness, end quote, and that an individual could influence the group's mean by choosing an unreasonably low or high value. Toward the conclusion he wrote, "The result is, I think, more creditable to the trustworthiness of a democratic judgment than might have been expected." Clearly, Galton's preference for the median, at least in some cases, was influenced by concerns about potential manipulation of data, as well as by Galton's social views. He came of age in a time for the UK when various reform acts throughout the 19th century greatly expanded voting rights, and the predecessor to today's Labour Party formed in 1900. Regardless of his preferences, Galton showed that the value of the median was within 1% of the true value, only a few pounds off. But wait, the plot thickens. 2 weeks later, a notable statistician from the Ministry of Agriculture, R.H. Hooker, wrote a letter to the Journal raising some concerns. He started off politely enough, very British, praising Galton's article as, quote, exceedingly interesting, end quote, but then launched into his doubts about the general use of the median over the mean. Hooker went on to write, "I should in fact like to strike a note of hesitation in regard to the too general use of the median in preference to the mean." He acknowledged that sure, the median has its perks, easy to calculate, useful for eliminating outliers, but is it really the better choice in all cases? While the median was less than 1% off from the truth, the mean, as it turned out in this contest, was dead on. Hooker concluded, "I should accordingly like to ask Mr. Galton whether he would indicate what, in his opinion, are the chief considerations to be taken into account in giving preference to the mean or the median as the better measure of average. It is a point upon which there is considerable difference of opinion. The recognition of the median is rapidly extending, and some statisticians incline to think that there is a growing tendency to quote it in cases where the ordinary arithmetic mean is preferable. It's a question that still keeps statisticians up at night." In the end, it was the arithmetic mean's reliable status as the expected value, and its close ties to standard deviation, that made it the preferred choice in the 20th century. Nevertheless, the median continues to play a significant role as a trusty sidekick in our data science tales. The history of the median may not be as thrilling as that of the mean, but it has certainly become more relevant in the era of data science. As we collect and analyze more data, the need for robust statistics has become increasingly important. The median has regained some popularity due to its effectiveness with skewed distributions and its ability to withstand outliers, which can make the mean behave like a kite in a hurricane. The median is often the only viable alternative in situations where the mean just won't cut it. For example, with ordinal data, where the values are ordered but not on a ratio level scale. Taking the arithmetic mean may not make sense, but if you can put the data in some kind of order, there's still going to be something in the middle. I'm a big fan of the median. It's like the reliable family sedan of statistical measures. It may not be flashy, but it gets the job done. Don't be afraid to give the median a try when you need a representative measure or a metric of central tendency. And if any snobby data scientists give you the side eye for using the median, just tell them you're an independent thinking, open-minded iconoclast, and they're just being mean. That concludes today's thrilling journey through the history of the median. If you enjoyed our spelunking adventure, Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, or even leave a comment with your favorite median fact. You can look for the Data Science Rabbit Hole on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Mastodon. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you when I see you.